The station windows showed a dying planet below. Vastrium had once been beautiful, or so the old record said. Now its surface was covered in black scars from 17 years of constant war. Cities burned. Forests were gone. Even the oceans looked dark and poisoned. Han Mirai stood at the window and looked down at the destruction. She was 34 years old, average height for a human woman with dark hair pulled back in a simple braid. She wore no uniform, no armor, no weapons, just plain gray clothes that marked her as a diplomat from Earth. Behind her, Park Jun-ho paced back and forth like a caged animal. He was her security chief, a man who had spent 20 years protecting diplomats in dangerous places. He had seen wars, riots, assassinations, and terrorist attacks, but he had never seen anything like what Mirai was planning to do. "This is insane," Jun-ho said for the 10th time that hour. "They will kill you. Not might kill you. Will kill you." Mirai turned from the window. Her face was calm, but her eyes showed she understood the danger. "Maybe," she said quietly, "maybe." Junyo stopped pacing and stared at her. "Ambassador, the Krell and the Mordians have been killing each other for 17 years. Millions dead on both sides. And you want to walk onto their battlefield with no weapons, no shields, no protection at all?" "Yes." Junho ran his hand through his short gray hair. "Why? Just tell me why you think this will work." Mirai walked to the table where maps and reports covered every surface. She picked up a data pad showing casualty numbers. The numbers were so high they stopped meaning anything. "Because nothing else has worked," she said. "The Galactic Council has sent negotiators. They were ignored. The Council sent military observers. Both sides shot at them. They sent aid workers. The Krell thought it was an insult. The Mordians thought it was a trick. So your plan is to do something even crazier? My plan is to do something neither side expects." Mirai set down the data pad. "Junho, both the Krell and Mordians think humans are weak. Our bodies are soft. We have no claws, no natural armor, no poison, no strength. In their eyes, we are the weakest species in the known galaxy." "They are not wrong about that," Junho muttered. "Exactly. So when a weak human walks onto their battlefield carrying nothing, what does that say?" Junho thought about it. That the human is stupid? Or that the human has something neither of them have anymore? The courage to be vulnerable. Junho shook his head. "That sounds nice, Ambassador, but courage does not stop bullets. It does not stop plasma fire or energy blades." "No, it does not." Mirai looked back at the dying planet. "But maybe it stops the people firing the bullets. Maybe, just for a moment, it makes them ask why they are fighting." The door opened and a young man entered. Kim Dae-hyun was a war correspondent who had covered conflicts across the galaxy. He carried camera drones and recording equipment everywhere he went. His job was to show the universe what war really looked like. "Ambassador Han," he said with a small bow, "I just got clearance from both sides to broadcast from the neutral zone. They think I am crazy too." "Welcome to the club," Junho said darkly. Mirai smiled at Dae-hyun. "Thank you for coming. The galaxy needs to see what happens tomorrow." "If you survive tomorrow," Dae-hyun said. He was not trying to be cruel, just honest. "Ambassador, I have covered wars for 12 years. I have seen what the Krell do to prisoners. I have seen what the Mordians do to anyone they think is weak. You are planning to walk into the middle of both armies and hope they do not kill you on principle." "I know what I am asking seems impossible," Mirai said. "But 17 years ago this war seemed impossible too. Both sides thought it would last a few months. Now look at them. They are destroying themselves and the planet they are fighting over. Someone has to make them stop and see what they are doing." "And that someone has to be you?" Junyo asked. "Why not send someone else? Someone with military training? Someone with combat experience?" Mirai looked at her security chief with gentle eyes. "Because, Junho, I have something military people do not have. I have failed before." The room went quiet. Everyone knew Mirai's history. She had been a negotiator on 3 different worlds before this. 2 of those negotiations had succeeded. One had failed catastrophically. 30,000 people died in the conflict she could not stop. "I know what it feels like to fail," Mirai continued softly. "I know what it costs when pride and stubbornness matter more than lives. I carry those deaths with me every day, and I will not let that happen again if I can stop it." Junho's expression softened. "You cannot save everyone, Mirai." "No, but I can try to save someone." She walked to the window again. "Down there, soldiers from both sides are scared, tired, and want to go home. But their commanders will not let them stop. Their cultures tell them stopping is weakness. Someone needs to show them that stopping is strength. And you think walking unarmed into a war zone shows strength? Daehyun asked. I think it shows I believe in peace more than I fear death. The words hung in the air. Junho and Daehyun exchanged looks. They both thought she was being foolish. They both thought she would probably die. But they also both knew they could not stop her. When do you leave? Junho finally asked. Dawn. When both armies can see me clearly. I am coming with you, Junho said immediately. No. Ambassador, no, Junho. Mirai turned to face him. If you come, they will think I need protection. That defeats the entire purpose. I must go alone. Then at least take a shield generator, something small they might not notice. If they notice, they will think I am lying about being unarmed. If they do not notice and it activates, they will think I tricked them. Either way, trust is broken before I even speak. Junho looked like he wanted to argue more, but he knew Mirai was right. He had worked with her for 6 years. He knew that when she made up her mind about something, she did not change it easily. Fine, he said quietly, but I will be watching from the station. If anything goes wrong, you will document what happened and make sure the next diplomat learns from my mistakes, Mirai said. Promise me, Junho. Promise you will not do something foolish to try to save me. Junho looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I promise, Daehyun cleared his throat. Ambassador, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Are you afraid? Mirai smiled, but it was a sad smile. Terrified. I have been afraid since I accepted this mission. But my teacher once told me that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is being afraid and doing what is right anyway. Who was your teacher? Daehyun asked. My grandmother. She lived through the resource wars on Earth. She saw humans at their worst, killing each other over water and food. She also saw humans at their best, choosing to share when sharing meant they might starve. She taught me that humans survived not because we were strong, but because we learned to be kind when being cruel was easier. Mirai walked to the door. Get some rest, both of you. Tomorrow is going to be a very long day. After she left, Junho and Daehyun stood in silence. Finally, Daehyun spoke. Do you think she will survive? Junho looked at the dying planet below. I think if anyone can walk onto a battlefield unarmed and live, it is her. But I also think we are about to watch the bravest or stupidest thing any human has ever done. Maybe both, Daehyun said. Maybe both, Junho agreed. Outside, in her small quarters, Mirai sat on her bed and allowed herself to shake. She was terrified. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was suicide. But she had studied the Krell and Mordians for months. She understood them better than they understood themselves. They were trapped. Both sides had lost so much they could not stop without feeling like the deaths meant nothing. They needed someone to give them permission to stop fighting. Someone who was not part of their conflict. Someone weak enough that helping her did not feel like surrender. Mirai closed her eyes and thought of her grandmother. She thought of Earth's history, of all the wars humans had fought and survived. She thought of every diplomat who had walked into danger armed with nothing but words and hope. Tomorrow she would join them. Tomorrow she would walk onto the battlefield unarmed. And tomorrow she would find out if peace was possible, or if she was just another fool who died believing in something beautiful. The dawn came cold and red over Vastrium. The sun rose through smoke and ash, painting the sky in colors that reminded everyone of blood and fire. On the station above, Park Junho watched through high-powered cameras as Han Mirai prepared to leave the safety of the neutral transport. She wore simple white clothes. No armor, no weapons, not even a communication device. She had left everything behind except a small bottle of water clipped to her belt. Transport approaching drop point, the pilot said nervously. Ambassador, are you absolutely sure about this? Mirai stood at the door. Through the window she could see the ruined capital city of Vastrium spread below. What had once been home to 5 million people was now just broken buildings and burned streets. Two armies faced each other across a kilometer of dead ground that both sides called the Scar. I am sure, she said quietly. The transport touched down at the edge of the Scar. The door opened and hot air rushed in, carrying the smell of smoke and death. Mirai stepped out onto the broken concrete and the transport immediately lifted off, leaving her completely alone. She took a deep breath and started walking. On the Krell side of the battlefield, General Throck watched through his targeting scope. He was a massive creature nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick armor-like scales. He had fought in this war since the first day. He had killed more enemies than he could count, and now he watched a human woman walk toward his army with nothing in her hands. "What is she doing?" asked his lieutenant, a younger Krell named Vakta. "I do not know," Thrak admitted. "But keep weapons ready. This could be a trick." On the Mordian side, War Master Selkoth also watched. The Mordians were different from the Krell. They were smaller, faster, with 6 limbs and crystalline exoskeletons that reflected light like living mirrors. Selkoth had led warriors for 15 years and never seen anything like this. "Should we fire?" asked one of his soldiers. "No," Selkoth said slowly. "Wait. I want to understand what this human thinks she is doing." Mireille walked steadily across the scar. The ground was rough with rubble and craters. She had to climb over broken walls and walk around holes big enough to swallow a vehicle. But she never hurried. She never looked frightened. She just walked. Junho watched from the station, his hands gripping the edge of the console so hard his knuckles turned white. "She is exposed," he muttered. "Every sniper on both sides has a clear shot." Beside him, Kim Dae-hyun adjusted his cameras. He was broadcasting everything live to the entire galaxy. Already millions of people on hundreds of worlds were watching. "This is Kim Dae-hyun reporting from Vastrium," he said quietly into his microphone. "What you are seeing is Ambassador Han Mireille of Earth, walking alone and unarmed into one of the most dangerous active war zones in the galaxy. I honestly do not know if she is the bravest human alive, or if we are watching someone commit an elaborate suicide." In the Krell trenches, snipers tracked Mireille through their scopes. They could see her face clearly. She looked calm, not afraid, not angry, just calm and determined. One sniper, a veteran named Kron, felt his finger on the trigger but could not make himself pull it. "Sir," he said to General Thrak, "permission to fire?" Thrak watched the human woman walk. She was not running. She was not hiding. She was just walking as if she had every right to be there. "Negative," he said finally.
Hold fire.
"I want to see where she goes." The order spread through the Krell lines. "Hold fire, watch and wait." Soldiers who had been shooting at anything that moved now lowered their weapons and simply stared at the human, walking through their battlefield. On the Mordian side, the same thing happened. Selkoth gave orders to hold fire. His soldiers, confused but obedient, watched the human approach. Mireille was halfway across the scar now. She knew both armies were watching. She knew 1,000 weapons were pointed at her. She knew that any second someone might decide she was a threat and open fire. But she kept walking. Her grandmother had taught her that sometimes the only way to change a situation was to do something so unexpected that everyone had to stop and reconsider everything. They thought they knew. This was that moment. Explosion went off in the distance, part of the ongoing war. Mireille did not flinch. She did not duck or run for cover. She just kept walking. Unyo saw this on his screen and felt his heart hammering in his chest. "She is going to give me a heart attack," he whispered. The distance between the armies grew smaller. Mireille could now see the Krell trenches clearly. She could see soldiers standing up to get a better look at her. She walked straight toward them, not slowing down, not speeding up, just walking. When she was 50 meters from the Krell lines, General Thrak climbed out of his trench. He stood fully exposed, his massive body blocking the path. He carried an energy rifle that could punch through vehicle armor. The weapon was pointed at Mireille. She stopped walking. They stood facing each other, the giant Krell general and the small human woman. Around them, the entire battlefield had gone silent. Thousands of soldiers from both sides watched to see what would happen. "You are either very brave or very stupid, human," Thrak said. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "Maybe both," Mireille replied. Her voice was quiet but clear. "Why are you here? Why do you walk onto my battlefield without weapons or armor?" "Because I wanted to talk to you." Thrak laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Talk? You come to a war to talk? You mock us by coming unarmed. You think we will not kill you?" Mireille met his eyes. She did not look away from the alien warrior who could crush her skull with one hand. "I think you are tired of killing," she said. "And I am here to listen." "Listen?" Thrak's grip on his rifle tightened. "What is there to listen to? We fight. We kill. We die. This is war. This is what we do." "Is it what you want to do?" The question hung in the air. Thrak stared at the human woman. Around him, his soldiers listened. Many of them were young. Many of them had never known peace. They had been born into this war and expected to die in it. "What I want does not matter," Thrak finally said. "I am a soldier. Soldiers fight. Soldiers also stop fighting when the war is over. This war is not over. It could be. Mirai took a step forward. Throck's rifle came up, but she did not stop. She walked right up to the massive general until she was close enough to touch him. She was so small next to him, like a child next to an adult. General Throck, you have been fighting for 17 years. Your soldiers are dying. Your supplies are running out. The planet you are fighting for is being destroyed. What will you win even if you defeat the Mordians? Throck looked down at her. For the first time in years, he felt uncertain. This human should be afraid. She should be begging for her life. Instead, she was asking him questions he had not let himself think about. The Krell do not surrender, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. I am not asking you to surrender. I'm asking you to talk. From the Mordian side, War Master Selkoth watched this interaction. He saw the mighty General Throck, the most feared Krell warrior, standing and talking with an unarmed human instead of killing her. This was wrong. This broke all the rules of war. But Selkoth found himself curious. What was this human saying? He made a decision. He climbed out of his own trench and walked across the no man's land. His soldiers gasped but did not stop him. He walked until he stood a few meters from Throck and the human. I am War Master Selkoth, he announced, and I demand to know what trick this is. Mirai turned to face him. No trick, War Master. I am Ambassador Han Mirai from Earth. I came to listen to both sides of this war. Humans are weak, Selkoth said. Everyone knows this. Your species has no natural weapons, no armor, no strength. Why should we listen to anything you say? You should not, Mirai agreed. You should listen to each other. Both Throck and Selkoth stared at her. What do you mean? Throck asked. I mean that you have been fighting so long you have forgotten how to talk. You see each other as enemies, as obstacles, as things to be destroyed. But you are people, both of you. And people can talk. Selkoth laughed, a crystalline sound like breaking glass. Talk to the Krell? They are barbarians. They understand only violence. Barbarians? Throck growled. The Mordians are thieves. They steal resources and call it survival. They have no honor. See? Mirai said. You both think the other side is unreasonable. You both think you are right. You both think compromise is impossible, so you keep fighting. And while you fight, your soldiers die. Your planet dies. And for what? Neither commander answered. Around them, soldiers from both armies had crept closer to hear this conversation. Many of them had never been this close to enemy soldiers without shooting. It felt strange, wrong, but also interesting. Daehyun's cameras captured everything. Billions of people across the galaxy watched a human woman stand between two alien warlords and ask them simple questions that no one had dared to ask before. Mirai looked at both commanders. I have traveled for 3 months to get here. I have studied your cultures. I have read your histories. I know why you fight, but I also know that neither of you can win. Not really. Even if you destroy the other side completely, what will be left? Victory, Throck said, but his voice was quieter now. Will it feel like victory when you stand on a dead planet surrounded by the graves of your soldiers? Silence. The question cut through years of propaganda and pride, and they built the meeting place in the exact center of the scar. It was not fancy. Just a large tent with basic chairs and a table. Soldiers from both sides worked together for the first time in 17 years to set it up. They did not speak to each other, but they did not shoot either. That was progress. Han Mirai sat at one end of the table. General Throck sat on her right with 5 Krell officers. War Master Selkoth sat on her left with 5 Mordian commanders. The two groups glared at each other with barely controlled hatred. Weapons were supposed to be left outside, but Mirai noticed several hidden blades and energy cells. Old habits died hard. On the orbital station, Park Junho watched through a drone camera hovering outside the tent. Beside him, Choi Minseo studied the body language of everyone in the meeting. Minseo was a xenopsychologist, an expert in alien behavior and communication. She had advised Mirai throughout the preparation for this mission. They are tense, Minseo observed. Look at how Throck keeps his hands near his belt. That is where Krell warriors keep emergency weapons. And Selkoth's middle limbs are twitching. That is a Mordian stress response. This could explode into violence any second. Junho nodded grimly. Mirai knows. Watch her hands. In the tent, Mirai kept her hands flat on the table, visible to everyone. It was a gesture of openness. She had nothing to hide. No tricks planned. Just conversation. Thank you for coming, she began. Her voice was calm and respectful. I know this is difficult for both sides. You have been enemies for a long time. We are still enemies, Selkoth said coldly. Do not mistake this meeting for friendship, human. I do not, Mirai replied. I understand you are enemies. I am not here to make you friends. I am here to help you understand each other. Understand? One of the Krell officers, a scarred veteran named Gortha, spat on the ground. We understand the Mordians perfectly. They are cowards who steal what others build. And the Krell are savages who take by force what they are too stupid to create, countered a Mordian commander named Velka. The temperature in the tent rose. Hands moved toward weapons. Mirai did not raise her voice. She simply said, stop. Something in her tone made everyone pause. It was not commanding. It was not threatening. It was just tired. Deeply, profoundly tired. I have read the casualty reports, Mirai continued quietly. 3 million Krell dead, 4 million Mordians. Those are just military casualties. The civilian deaths are twice that. 17 years of killing. And for what? So you can insult each other in person instead of from across a battlefield? Silence filled the tent. The insults died in their throats. They had all lost friends, family, comrades. The numbers Mirai mentioned were not abstract. They were real people with real names and real lives. Mirai looked at General Throck. Tell me why you fight, General. Not the official reason. Your reason? Throck was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice carried the weight of all his years. The Krell code is honor. We fight because to surrender is to admit weakness. To admit weakness is to die. Our entire culture is built on strength. If we stop fighting before we win, our ancestors will judge us as failures. Our children will grow up ashamed of what we did. And you, War Master? Mirai asked Selkoth. Selkoth's crystalline features reflected the dim light in the tent. Mordians believe in survival above all. This planet has resources we need. Water, minerals, rare elements that exist nowhere else in our territory. If we lose this planet, millions of our people will die. Not from war, from starvation, from lack of medicine, from ships that cannot be repaired. We fight because survival requires it. Mirai nodded slowly. So the Krell fight for honor. The Mordians fight for survival. Both are good reasons. Both are things worth fighting for. Then you understand why this war cannot end, Gortha said. Neither side can compromise on what matters most. Maybe, Mirai said. Or maybe you are both fighting for the same thing and do not realize it. Both sides looked at her in confusion. What do you mean? Throck asked. You both want your people to survive and thrive. The Krell want their culture, their honor, their way of life to continue. The Mordians want their people to have the resources they need to live. Those are not opposite goals. Those are the same goal expressed differently. Words, Velka said dismissively. Clever human words that mean nothing. Mirai pulled out a small datapad she had brought. Let me show you something. These are images from Earth, my home planet. This is what Earth looked like 300 years ago. She projected images above the table. They showed cities in ruins, wastelands where forests should have been, oceans turned toxic and dead. The alien commanders leaned forward, interested despite themselves. Humans nearly destroyed ourselves, Mirai said softly. We fought 7 major wars. Nuclear weapons, biological plagues, AI conflicts, genetic warfare. We poisoned our own planet. We killed billions of our own species. We came so close to extinction that only a few million humans survived. How did you recover? Asked a young Krell officer named Krax. He looked barely old enough to fight. We learned to share, Mirai said simply. We learned that survival was more important than victory. We learned that working together produced better results than fighting alone. It was not easy. Many humans still wanted to fight. Many believed cooperation was weakness. But eventually enough of us chose to try something different. She changed the images. Now they showed modern Earth, green forests, clean oceans, cities that gleamed with life and energy. This is Earth now. 300 years of cooperation. 300 years of choosing to build instead of destroy. We are not perfect. We still have problems. But we are alive. And our planet is healing. Selkoth studied the images carefully. Your species is weak physically. You had to cooperate because you could not survive alone. That is true, Mirai agreed. Humans are weak. We have soft skin that tears easily. We have no claws or armor. We are slow and fragile. In a fight against almost any other species, we lose. But we learned something valuable from being weak. What? Throck asked. We learned that strength is not the same as survival. The strongest species are not always the ones who survive. The ones who survive are the ones who adapt, who learn, who change when change is needed. Mirai looked around the table. Both your species are strong. The Krell are warriors without equal. The Mordians are brilliant strategists and engineers. But you are fighting over a planet that is dying. Every battle destroys more resources. Every bomb poisons more water. Every fire burns more forests. You are killing the thing you are fighting for. What would you have us do? Gortha demanded. Give up? Surrender our honor and needs? No, I would have you think like humans learn to think. Not what can I take from my enemy, but what can we build together? Velka laughed bitterly. Build together? With the Krell? They only know how to destroy. And the Mordians only know how to steal, Crack shot back. Mirai held up her hand. Tell me something. Have any of you ever actually talked to the other side? Not negotiations. Not surrender demands. Just talked. Learned about each other. Understood who they are as people. The tent went silent. No one answered. I thought not, Mirai said. You have been killing each other for 17 years, but you do not actually know each other. You know propaganda. You know stereotypes. You know the enemy you were told to hate. But you do not know the real people sitting across this table. She looked at Krax, the young Krell officer. How old are you? 23 solar cycles, he said cautiously. So you have spent your entire adult life in this war. Have you ever known peace? No, Ambassador. Mirai turned to a young Mordian commander named Tova. And you? How long have you been fighting? 15 cycles. Since I was old enough to hold a weapon. Do you want to keep fighting for another 15 cycles? Tova hesitated. Then quietly she said, No, I want to go home. I want to see my family. I want to do something other than kill and watch my friends die. The admission shocked everyone. Mordian warriors were not supposed to admit weakness. But Tova had said what many in that tent were thinking. Throck looked at his own officers. He saw their exhaustion, their scars, the haunted look in their eyes that came from too many years of war. We are tired, he admitted. All of us. But we cannot simply stop fighting. Our people expect us to win. What if winning looked different? Mirai asked. What if winning meant your people survived and thrived even if it was not through military victory? You speak in riddles, human, Selkoth said. Then let me be clear. Mirai leaned forward. This planet has resources both sides need. The Krell have military strength and discipline. The Mordians have engineering skill and technology. Earth has agricultural methods and cooperation experience. What if, instead of fighting over the planet, we rebuilt it together? All three species working to make Vastrium better than it was before the war. Work with the Mordians? Gortha sounded disgusted. Work with the Krell? Velka sounded equally horrified. Yes, Mirai said firmly. Because the alternative is that you keep fighting until everyone is dead and the planet is worthless. I have watched the projections. At the current rate of destruction, Vastrium will be uninhabitable in 5 years. You are not fighting for resources anymore. You are fighting over the right to die on a dead rock. The truth of her words hit hard. Both sides knew their situation was. The next morning brought more than just soldiers to the meeting tent. Mirai watched as General Throck arrived with a Krell farmer named Mokhtar. The farmer was old. His scales faded with age and he walked with a limp from an old injury. War Master Selkoth brought a Mordian engineer named Riva, who carried data pads and looked nervous about being so close to Krell warriors. Mirai had also brought reinforcements. Li Hyunwoo stood beside her, a human engineer who specialized in planetary reconstruction. Next to him was Dr. Song Jian, a xenobiologist who had studied both Krell and Mordian ecosystems for years. They carried equipment and data that would support what Mirai wanted to show both sides. Park Junho watched from the station, but this time he was not alone. The meeting was being broadcast across the galaxy. Billions of people were watching to see if peace was possible on Vastrium. Some hoped, some doubted. All were curious about what the small human diplomat would do next. Inside the tent, everyone sat. The soldiers still looked hostile, but the civilians looked more uncertain than angry. Mirai noticed this and started with them. Thank you for coming, Mokhtar, she said to the Krell farmer. Tell me, what did you do before the war? Mokhtar's voice was rough from years of outdoor work. I grew grain on the northern plains. My family had farmed that land for 6 generations. The soil was rich. The water was clean. We fed thousands of people, and now? Now the plains are a battlefield. The soil is poisoned by chemical weapons. The water is contaminated by machine oil and blood. Nothing grows there anymore. My family's farm is gone. Mirai turned to Riva. And you? What was your life like before the war? The Mordian engineer's crystalline features shifted with sadness. I designed water purification systems. Mordian settlements across 3 planets used my designs. I was proud of my work. I saved lives by giving people clean water. What do you do now? I design weapons. I create systems to poison enemy water supplies. I help kill instead of help live. Riva's voice dropped to almost a whisper. I hate what I have become. The tent was silent. Even the hardened soldiers looked uncomfortable. These were not warriors reciting propaganda. These were ordinary people whose lives had been destroyed by the war. Mirai stood and activated a holographic projector. Images filled the air above the table. This is Earth's history. I told you yesterday that humans nearly destroyed ourselves. Let me show you exactly what that looked like. The images showed devastation that made even Vastrium's destruction look small. Entire cities vaporized by nuclear weapons. Populations wiped out by biological plagues. Oceans turned to acid. Forests that became deserts. The numbers were staggering. 8 billion humans reduced to a few million in less than a century. We did this to ourselves, Mirai said quietly. We fought over resources, territory, ideology, religion, and pride. Every reason you can imagine, we fought over it. And we nearly went extinct. Gortha, the scarred Krell officer, leaned forward. But you survived. How? Li Hyunwoo stood up. He was a tall man with gray hair and strong hands from years of building. We survived because enough people finally said enough. Enough death. Enough destruction. Enough pride. We had to choose between being right and being alive. We chose to be alive. That sounds like surrender, Selkoth said coldly. It sounds like wisdom, Dr. Song Ji-yeon countered. She was a small woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice. War Master, my grandfather fought in the last human war, the one we call the Great Silence, because it almost ended all human communication forever. He told me that the hardest thing he ever did was put down his weapon and talk to his enemy. He said it took more courage than any battle he fought. Courage? Velka scoffed. Talking requires no courage, does it not? Mirai challenged. General Throck, you have fought for 17 years. How much courage did it take to come to this tent yesterday? To sit across from your enemy and listen instead of fight? Throck was quiet for a moment. Then slowly he said, more than I expected. Mirai nodded. That is what humans learned. Real courage is not just fighting. Real courage is doing what is hard. And sometimes peace is harder than war. Li Hyunwoo activated his own set of projections. These showed plans, designs, and calculations. Let me show you what we could do if we worked together instead of fighting. The Mordians have advanced mining technology. The Krell have agricultural knowledge that works in harsh conditions. Humans have experience in ecological restoration. If we combined all 3, we could rebuild Vastrium in a generation. Rebuild? Mokhtar, the old farmer, sounded hopeful for the first time. Yes, rebuild. Hyunwoo showed images of restored landscapes, clean water systems, and thriving farms. The technology exists. The knowledge exists. What does not exist is cooperation. You are too busy destroying to build. Dr. Song pulled up biological data. I have studied both Krell and Mordian biology for years. Do you know what I discovered? Your species are compatible, not genetically but ecologically. Krell farming methods produce nutrients that Mordian technology can process into fuel. Mordian engineering creates materials that Krell construction techniques can use. You fit together like pieces of a puzzle. Why would nature do that? Riva asked, genuinely curious. Nature does not care about war, Song said gently. Nature cares about balance. Your species evolved on different worlds, but you both thrive in similar conditions. That means you can share resources instead of fighting over them. Selkoth stood abruptly. This is all theory, projections, dreams. The reality is that we have been killing each other for 17 years. You cannot erase that with hopeful images and scientific data. You are right, Mirai agreed. We cannot erase what happened. But we can choose what happens next. She pulled up another set of images. These were not plans or projections. These were photographs of young soldiers. Krell and Mordian, dead on battlefields. These soldiers died last month. This one was 19 years old. This one was 22. This one had 3 children who will grow up without a parent. All of them died fighting over land that is becoming worthless because of the fighting. The images kept coming. More faces. More names. More lives ended. I have thousands more of these, Mirai said. I can show you images of dead soldiers for hours. Every single one had a family, had dreams, had a life they wanted to live. And every single one died because their leaders could not figure out how to stop fighting. Throck looked at the faces of dead Krell warriors. Some he recognized, some he had commanded, some he had sent into battle knowing they might not return. The weight of those decisions pressed down on him like a physical force. We are warriors, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. We fight. That is what we are. No, Mokhtar said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at the old farmer. We are not just warriors. We are farmers and builders and parents and teachers. War made us forget that, but it is still true. I do not want to be remembered as part of the generation that destroyed Krell civilization. I want to be remembered as a farmer who fed his people. Riva nodded. And I want to be remembered for building things, not destroying them. Young Krax, the Krell officer, spoke up hesitantly. I have never known peace. I was born into this war. Sometimes I try to imagine what it would be like to not be afraid every day, to not watch my friends die, to build something instead of destroy it. He looked at Throck. General, is that wrong? Is it weak to want peace? Throck looked at his young officer. Krax was barely more than a child, but he had the eyes of someone who had seen too much death. No, Throck said quietly. It is not weak. It is honest. Mirai saw her opening. Humans were once the most violent species in our region of space. We killed each other over everything. We invented thousands of ways to cause death. But we learned something important. Being good at killing does not mean you should keep killing. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is choose not to fight. But our people will see it as surrender, Velka protested. They will think we were cowards who gave up. Then change the story, Lee Hyunwoo said. Do not call it surrender. Call it survival. Call it wisdom. Call it choosing life over death. The words you use matter. Frame it as strength, not weakness, Dr. Song added. And show them what you gain, not what you lose. You lose the war, yes, but you gain a planet that can support both your peoples. You gain resources. You gain peace. You gain the chance to watch your children grow up without fear. Mirai walked around the table, stopping to look each person in the eye. I am not asking you to be friends. I am not asking you to forget what happened. I am asking you to choose survival. To choose to give your people a future. That is all. Just a chance at a future. Selkoth and Throck looked at each other. For 17 years they had been enemies. For 17 years they had tried to destroy each other. Now a human woman was asking them to do something that seemed impossible. To work together. This would take time, Selkoth said slowly. And trust. And we have no trust between us. Then start small, Mirai suggested. Start with one project. One agricultural zone where Krell and Mordian work together. One water treatment plant. One power station. Prove it can work. Then do another. And another. Build trust through action, not words. Throck looked at Mokhtar. If we did this, could you farm again? 3 days after the ceasefire began, everything fell apart. Han Mirai stood in the command tent reviewing progress reports when the emergency call came. Park Junho's voice crackled through the communicator, urgent and frightened. Mirai, you need to get to the northern sector now. The supreme leaders have arrived. Both of them. And they are about to restart the war. Mirai felt her blood turn cold. General Throck and War Master Selkoth had agreed to the ceasefire, but they were field commanders. They did not have final authority. That power belonged to the supreme leaders of both civilizations, leaders who had not been part of the conversations, leaders who saw the ceasefire as betrayal. She ran. Lee Hyunwoo and Dr. Song Jian followed her. Kim Daehyun scrambled to get his cameras moving. They all knew what this meant. If the supreme leaders ordered the war to continue, the fragile peace would shatter like glass. They reached the gathering point to find thousands of soldiers from both sides assembled. At the center stood two figures that radiated authority and rage. Supreme Leader Vaxer of the Krell was massive, even larger than Throck, covered in ceremonial armor that marked him as the ultimate Krell warrior. High Chancellor Morven of the Mordians gleamed with crystalline authority, his exoskeleton enhanced with technology that made him look more like a machine than a living being. Both leaders were surrounded by elite guards. Both had weapons drawn, and both were shouting at their respective commanders. You dare make peace without my permission? Vaxor roared at Throk. You shame the Krell people with this weakness. You have endangered our entire civilization. Morven's voice was cold as ice as he berated Selkoth. Cooperation with the Krell is treason. Throk and Selkoth stood at attention, but their expressions showed conflict. They believed in the ceasefire, but they also served their leaders. Duty and hope warred inside them. Mirai pushed through the crowd. Soldiers from both sides tried to stop her, but she kept moving forward. She was unarmed, as always. Just a small human woman in simple clothes, but she walked like she had every right to be there. Supreme Leader Vaxor. High Chancellor Morven, she called out. I am Ambassador Han Mirai of Earth. I negotiated this ceasefire. If you have a problem with it, speak to me, not your commanders. Both leaders turned to look at her. The hatred in their eyes made even veteran soldiers step back. But Mirai did not flinch. You, Vaxor growled. The weak human who thinks talking can replace fighting. You have filled my commanders' heads with foolish ideas. Ideas about survival, Mirai replied. Ideas about giving your people a future. The only future the Krell need is victory, Vaxor declared. We are warriors. We do not negotiate with enemies. We defeat them. Morven nodded agreement. For once the Krell speak truth. The Mordian collective does not compromise. We take what we need to survive. This ceasefire is an insult to everything we stand for. Mirai looked at both leaders. They were old, older than the war. They had built their entire political power on this conflict. Peace threatened everything they were. So you would rather your people die than admit the war is killing you both, Mirai said. It was not a question. Die with honor or live with shame, Vaxor said. We choose honor, and I choose life, Mirai replied. But I understand I cannot convince you with words. You have made your decisions. She turned and began walking toward the center of the assembled armies. Soldiers parted for her, confused about what she was doing. She walked until she reached two objects standing in the ground, the Krell battle standard and the Mordian war banner. Both were sacred symbols of their respective civilizations. Both represented everything their people fought for. Mirai pulled both standards from the ground. The reaction was instantaneous. Thousands of soldiers from both sides screamed in rage. Touching the enemy's banner was the highest insult. Carrying it was a declaration of absolute contempt. Guards from both sides rushed toward her with weapons raised. Stop, Throk's voice cut through the chaos. Do not harm her. Let me see what the human does, Selkoth commanded his troops. The soldiers stopped, but they kept their weapons ready. Mirai stood holding both banners. The Krell standard was heavy, designed for their massive warriors. The Mordian banner was lighter but awkward for human hands to hold. She struggled with the weight, but she did not put them down. What are you doing, human? Vaxor demanded. Mirai looked at both supreme leaders. I am carrying your banners. Both of them. Do you know why? It is an insult, Morven said. Only victorious warriors carry enemy standards. Exactly, Mirai said. And you are so focused on being those victorious warriors that you cannot see you have already lost. Both of you. You have lost your planets, your resources, your people's trust, and your future. But you are too proud to admit it, she began walking. Not toward one army or the other. She walked toward the neutral ground between them. The same path she had walked days before when she first arrived. Soldiers from both sides watched in stunned silence. If you want to kill me for this insult, then do it, Mirai said loudly. Her voice carried across the battlefield. But know that every species in the galaxy is watching right now. Kim Dae-hyun is broadcasting this to billions of people. They will all see that you murdered an unarmed human woman because she tried to give you peace. Park Jun-ho watched from the station, his heart pounding. What is she doing? This is suicide. Choi Min-seo stared at the screens. She is betting everything on one truth. That enough soldiers want peace more than their leaders want war. Mirai walked slowly. The banners were heavy. Her arms ached. But she kept going. Behind her, something unexpected happened. Young Krax, the Krell officer who had spoken about wanting peace, stepped forward. I will walk with the human, he announced. His fellow soldiers stared at him in shock. Walking with someone carrying the enemy banner was treason, but Krax did not care. He was tired of war. He joined Mirai, walking beside her. Then Torin, the Mordian soldier who had spoken about wanting to go home, stepped forward. I will walk with them. More soldiers began moving. Not all of them. Many still followed their supreme leaders without question. But hundreds, then thousands, began following Mirai. Krell and Mordian soldiers walking together for the first time. Not fighting, just walking. Vaxer screamed orders. "Stop, that is a command."
"Any soldier who follows the human will be executed for treason."
But the soldiers kept walking. They had followed orders for 17 years. They had killed and died for their leaders, and they were tired. So tired of fighting, so tired of losing friends, so tired of pretending this war would end anyway except mutual destruction. Mokhtar, the old Krell farmer, joined the march. Riva, the Mordian engineer, walked beside him. Li Hyunwoo and Dr. Song Jion joined as well. The march grew larger and larger. General Throck looked at Supreme Leader Vaxer. For the first time in his life, he disobeyed a direct order. He walked after Mirai and his soldiers. War Master Selkoth did the same, leaving High Chancellor Morvan alone with only his elite guards. Mirai reached the center point, the exact middle of the battlefield. She planted both banners in the ground side by side. Then she collapsed. The weight of the standards had been too much. She had pushed her body past its limits. Cracks caught her before she hit the ground. "Ambassador, are you all right?" "Tired," Mirai whispered. "Just tired." Throck and Selkoth reached the center at the same time. They looked at the banners standing together. They looked at their soldiers, Krell and Mordian, mixed together and not fighting. They looked at the two supreme leaders still shouting orders that no one followed. "It seems our soldiers have made a choice," Throck said. Selkoth nodded. "They choose peace. You are traitors," Vaxer roared. "All of you. I will have you executed." Throck turned to face his supreme leader. He had served Vaxor for 30 years. He had followed every order without question. But now he said something he had never said before. "No," the single word echoed across the battlefield. A Krell general had just refused a supreme leader's order. It was unthinkable. It was revolutionary. Selkoth addressed Morvan. "High Chancellor, this war is over. Not because we lost, not because we surrendered, but because we chose to survive. If you want to continue fighting, you will do it alone." The supreme leaders realized they had lost control, not through military defeat, not through political maneuvering. They had lost because their people were done fighting. The soldiers, the ones who did the actual dying, had decided peace was more valuable than victory. Morvan looked at his scattered forces. Vaxer saw his warriors refusing orders. Both leaders understood that if they tried to force the war to continue, their own people would remove them from power. "This is not over," Vaxer said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Yes, it is," Mirai said. Cracks helped her stand. She was shaking with exhaustion, but her voice was clear. "It is over because your people say it is over. They are tired of dying for your pride. They want to live. And they have decided to choose life." Junho's voice came through the communicator. "Mirai, Captain Yoon Seung-ho just arrived in orbit with the relief supplies. Should he land?" "Yes," Mirai said. "Tell him to bring everything. Food, medical supplies, construction equipment. We have a planet to rebuild." Over the next hours, something miraculous happened. Krell and Mordian soldiers began working together. Not as enemies forced to cooperate. As